Now, I want to talk about some different types of housings. In your book, we list several different types of houses. The most common one you're going to deal with is called an SFR or an SFD, single family detached living or single family residence, SFR. Single family detached. A single family detached is probably what I'm guessing 95% of you live in. It is one house on one lot. Sits in the middle of the lot, you got your driveway up to the side, you mow all the way around it. It's a single family detached from any other real estate or any other property, okay? Now, contrast that with what we call a single family attached living. It's not in your book. I want you to write it in. If you're looking at the overheads, you will see it's in green. Single family attached, erroneously called condos because the word condo means 4 or more units. All right? Single family attached, 2 units sharing a same wall that are attached to each other. The key here is it's 2 lots. And we call the attached or the party wall has what they call, and it's a really cool name, I love this, it's called a zero lot line, meaning they are 0 feet between the edge of the lots. So imagine the house on the left is pushed all the way against the left side of the yard, and the house on the right is pushed all the way on the right side, so they join and touch each other. All right? Now, what I just said doesn't work, now that I thought about it. It's the house on the left pushed all the way to the right side, and the house on the right pushed all the way to the left side. That way they join or they are touching and they share a common wall that is called a party wall. And since there is 0 feet between the edge of the lot and the house, it's called a 0 lot line. Those are single family attached to each other living. Garden homes, walk-up homes, you hear that? Technically, it's not a condo because condo means 4 or more, but I have seen people call them condos. How does that differ than a double or a duplex? All right, still got 2 living spaces, right? The key is on a double, it is 1 lot with 2 living units in it, as opposed to single family attached are 2 separate tax parcels. It's just the houses are touching each other. Single family attached living, lot 1, house 1, lot 2, house 2, but the houses are touching. A double is lot 1 with house 1, house 2 on it. Okay? That is a double or a duplex. That's the difference. How do you tell? How do you tell if it's a double or an attached living? Well, unfortunately you can't unless you talk to one of the owners or pull the tax record, because you cannot see the lot line. You don't know if that's 1 yard or is that 2 yards. Even if there's a fence there, it could still be 1 yard. You can put a fence in the middle of your yard. So you have to kind of look that up or talk to somebody, and he's like, oh, no, I own the whole house and I lease that side out and that's my yard. Oh, so you live in a duplex. Or you could say, no, I mow this side of the yard and it goes right to that here, and then from here over is that guy's, and he owns his own lot. Oh, so you're attached living. Apartment, condo, and co-op. The next 3 right there. These are confusing because, once again, you really can't tell by looking at them. Now, before we get started, do we all understand what a co-op is? No? All right. We don't use co-ops in Indiana. Matter of fact, to my knowledge, I only know of 2 in the entire city. One at like 34th and Shadeland, and the other, for you Southsiders, is right over here at McFarland. When it dead ends into Stop 11 Road, they've got Harvard Square Co-op, which look like apartments if you go by and look at them. But read the sign, it says Harvard Square Co-op. What a co-op is where the 4 of us, me, you, and you, create a company, and let's say we each throw in, I don't know, let's make the math easy, 100 grand. We take, the company then takes that 400,000 and buys a building, and we live in the building. We don't own the building, we own the company owns the building, but we live in it because the building or the company allows us to do it. And the word you're going to be looking for is this word called a proprietary lease. And that is the key to understanding which one we're talking about. I love this example. If I said the word to, what do I mean? Do I mean TWO? Do I mean TOO? Or do I mean TO? If I just took the word and said it to you, especially this works really well for you guys listening at home because you're not seeing any visual. If I just said to, what do I mean? Now we can play the game for you guys listening at home. Just guess which one I mean, and I'll tell you right now it's wrong because I'll just change my answer. How you know which word it is by listening to the context. If I said I really love my new shoes and I have 2 of them, oh, that's TWO. And if I said, you know, my mom went to the store and I went too, that means also, that's TOO. And if I said, yeah, we went to the store, TO, as a direction. So the context knows. So if I showed you a 4-unit building, sitting next to a 4-unit building, sitting next to a 4-unit building, 3 of them, and I told you one's a co-op, one's an apartment, and one's a condo, how can you tell me which one is which? Well, hopefully you caught the analogy. The answer is you cannot. And that goes back to the single family attached and the duplex, kind of. You cannot tell me which one is which because you need to talk to somebody and get some context. If I told you that I lived and owned Unit A, fee simple, and I own 25% of all the common area, including the pool, the parking lot, and the playground, you would say, oh, you live in a condominium or a condo. Yes, because the words own, common area, those are all keys to that term. If I said I rent Unit A and I pay my landlord based on my lease agreement, you would say, oh, you live in an apartment because the words rent, landlord, lease, all go with apartment. Now here's the other one. If I said I was on the board of directors and owned shares of stock in the company and signed a proprietary lease with the company, you would say, oh, it's a co-op. All right, now let me visit that co-op one more time. Okay, let's assume there's 4 of us, like I talked about. We own 1,000. We all throw in 100,000, $400,000 building owned by this company. The company's name is Dewey, Cheatham and Howe. All right, LLC, and it owns the company. Now, in the condo scenario, I own A outright. I have nothing to do with B, C, or D. In a co-op situation, I own 25% of all 4 of them, all right? Because we own shares of stock in the company, and the company owns the building. So I own 25%, you own 25%, she owns 25%, you own 25%. But we don't want to go walking randomly in and out of your bedroom and bathroom, nor I want you in mine. So we all agree that even though I own 25% of A, 25% of B, 25% of C, and 25% of D, that I am going to sign a proprietary lease with the company that says I will live in A and stay out of B, C, and D unless there's a reason to, all right? Same thing with you, Bob. You may be in B with a proprietary lease and stay out of A, C, and D, and you guys get the picture. The good thing about, or the bad thing about a co-op is it allows us as board members or stock owners or share owners to kind of guide who we want to buy the partner out. So there's 4 of us. Susan, you want out. You're going to sell your 25% or your shares of stock. We actually have the ability to deny who you sell it to because it affects the entire company. We don't want you to sell to somebody that maybe has financial issues, because if he can't make his monthly payment or he can't help us, it's going to rely on us to have to cover his butt to the mortgage payment, or if he loses and gets into a financial issue, or say a legal issue, they could attach our house and now we're all in trouble. So theoretically, we could say, Susan, sorry, we don't think your potential buyer drives the right car. Or, look, God forbid, you would say he's not the right color. And that becomes a problem with co-ops. You know, they were originally designed to kind of guide the issue, but there are many people now that use it in the wrong sense to do stuff like that. Oh, sorry, your kid doesn't go to the right school, therefore we're not letting you in the co-op. Or, you know, you're of the wrong religion for us. So that's a co-op, and you can't really tell those four apart, or those three apart, without really talking to somebody. We have this thing called a PUD, which meant a whole separate thing differently when I was in high school. It's a planned unit development. All right, the best way to think of a PUD is like a snow globe. And what I mean by that is, it is an asterisk zoning. It is a zoning in and of itself. But it can be anything. And it almost has to be. Because you wouldn't want to get a PUD zoning and go through all the trouble and only build houses. Well, you should have just got our zoning and dealt with it. A PUD zoning has everything. Theoretically, you can be born, live, die on a PUD and never leave the premises. It's got shopping, it's got retail, it's got entertainment, it's got housing, it's got special unit, all of it. The two or three that I know of in Indianapolis area, you've got Heartland Crossing over there. You have got Clay Terrace up on the north side, and I believe Anson up on the northwest side is also a PUD. So when you look at it, you drive by Heartland Crossing, you see the restaurants up front, you see the shopping center behind it, there's houses, there's high-end homes, there's an apartment complex, there's a big box store, there's banking. All of that is not zoned separately. So in other words, the developer who developed all of it, which was Throgmorton, by the way, did not go in and get C4 zoning here and C2 zoning there and R20 zoning and special use. No, he said, here is my plan, and he laid the plan out in front of the powers that be and said, if you give me PUD zoning, which allows me to do anything everywhere, we have to argue one time, and here's my plan to build what I want to build. Now, they say yes, he builds it. Theoretically, he could have said, I'm going to put the houses along the interstate, put the McDonald's all the way in the back, because technically it would fit in PUD. That's where the snow globe. Pick it up, shake it, set it back down, everything falls where it falls. Theoretically, it still works. Not a smart idea, probably not a good idea, but because PUD is a zoning that allows anything, it doesn't really matter where it goes. All right? Contrast that with a MUD, which is a mixed-use development, or sometimes you hear it called high-rise. This is slightly different, but very similar, or very different and slightly similar, depending on how you want to look at it. This is where I told you it has distinct zonings inside of the building. So imagine a PUD, squish it all together, put it in one thing, zone it up, stand it up, becomes a high-rise. But unlike the PUD where I can mix stuff around, can't do that in a mixed unit. I get specific zoning that says the first 3 stories of my 20-story building are going to be zone C2. So I'm going to put little small boutiques and maybe a deli in there. And then floors 4 through 15, I'm going to have office space where you can work. And I'm going to lease it out to, you know, copier companies and whatever. And then floors 18, 19, and 20, I'm going to build condos that I'm going to sell to the high-end group. And those are going to be zoned R1. So I actually have distinct zoning. I got C2, I got C7, and then I've got R1. I can't move those around. I can't put the houses on bottom and the deli on top. Unlike the PUD, it is distinct zoning that is just put together in the same building. I've told you before, a lot of urbanized, almost all urbanized cities, use this concept so they can get multiple people in the smaller area. That way they can live downtown, work downtown, shop downtown, and never leave. Okay? Next one. The next thing that you have got is what they call converted use. Converted use is when it was one zoning and now we have converted it to another. And this goes back to what I was trying to talk about earlier, that ladder. It's really easy to go down the ladder. To take something that is very intrusive into the environment, like an industrial property, and move it down the ladder to like an apartment complex. That's the big chic thing to do that you see in all the movies. The old industrial building is now a condo, and they've got big tall ceilings. And you know, we've got several of these downtown. You've got the Silk Factory. You've got the Stutz building, which was industrial to office. You've got one that was industrial to living. That's very easy. Going up the chain's much harder. And what I mean by that is go home and turn your house into a toxic waste dump. Go from an R1 to an industrial 7. Well, you can't do it. It won't happen. But I mean, see how much harder it is to go up that ladder. So very easy to convert down. Take an old industrial building and make it office, or an old industrial building and make it apartments or some kind of living. That is very easy to do, very common, becoming real part of what we call the Snapback Syndrome. A lot of cities work under the Snapback Syndrome. Indianapolis most certainly does. What that means is, or sometimes you hear it called the rubber band syndrome. What happens is people live downtown and then they expand to the suburbs, and then there's a big revitalization downtown and everybody wants to go back downtown again, and it snaps back like a rubber band. That process, I mean, it's not like a week or two. It's, 20, 30-year process. Everybody moves out to the suburbs, then they redevelop downtown with all the new condos and the new Simon Mall. Now it's in vogue to go back downtown and live downtown on the canal and some of the new condos that are down there. That's part of the snapback process. All right? Factory built housing, I couldn't tell you. Modular built, mobile home, manufactured, factory built, stick built, all of those are so confusing anymore because A, there's no really distinct definition. For instance, let me give you an example. Davis Homes, stick built, right? But they build them in a factory somewhere else, bring them onto the site, stand them up, and Lincoln log them together. There was a company called Arbor, I do believe. Well, it was called Arbor, but I do believe they used to do what was called panelized. They would make the entire room a panel. So in the warehouse, they would put the drywall on one side, the frame, the insulation, and then the siding on the other side, and make literally a panel out of it, take it to the slab and just stand it up and pin it in the corners and put a roof on it and go, it's done. All right? Still said it was stick built because they're using sticks, but they're not using, not custom. Is it semi-custom? Is it built on site? Is it built in a factory? The only thing I can tell you for sure is I live in a modular home. Really? Nobody? I know it's early. Get it? That's my last name, Modular. All right, cool.